the Democratic National Committee has hired a guy by the name of Chris Korge, as its finance chair. This is from the Huffington Post. And let me just skip around for a little bit here so you just get a little drift here. So if you can't see that, this is a tweet from when was this? This is from 2018. Somebody tweeted out, "No more Bernie Sanders. This man is dangerous to the future of the Democratic Party. I don't want to hear that he's running in 2020. I don't want to hear about him anymore. No more Bernie." And who is that there? That retweet? Chris Korge. I think I'm pronouncing his last name right. Let me give you a little bit more about Mr. Korge. Korge is a South Florida attorney, former Miami-Dade County lobbyist, and longtime Democratic donor. To serve the top fundraising post for Henry Munoz, who stepped down earlier this month. The DNC's voting membership will have the chance to vote on confirming Korge at the party's August meeting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Key phrasing here. Former Miami-Dade County lobbyist and longtime Democratic donor. Well, you know who is a big political figure in the Miami-Dade area? Can you take a guess? Who's a big political figure in the Miami-Dade area? Do 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 do. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So, full disclosure, haven't dug around yet. Didn't have time. Had a few calls before this not live stream. This guy's a lobbyist from South Florida. I think he knows who Debbie Wasserman Schultz is, and reason would stand, they know each other. Probably have, maybe not direct links, but some association. And I'll have more on that when I've had time to research. So this guy, in December, so just 6 months ago, was retweeting tweets. No more Bernie Sanders. This man is dangerous to the future of the Democratic Party. I don't want to hear that he's running in 2020. I don't want to hear about him anymore. No more Bernie. He himself has tweeted. Here is this tweet. And all of these tweets were deleted, of course. So this is a tweet from Chris Korge. Huffington Post just has the screenshots. This is from March 2016. There is no choice. The only burn the middle class will feel from Bernie is the pain from all those tax increases. This is from March 2016. This is the new DNC finance chair. Chris Korge, January 2016. Guns, guns, guns. Come on, Bernie. Just admit you have been weak on guns for political purpose. It's unbelievable. Tom Perez, who has been pretending, oh, nope, we're neutral now. Superdelegates are now in the second ballot. So superdelegates can't decide the first ballot. It's a step in the right direction. I still think superdelegates do have the potential to decide, because with all of these candidates, all 75,000 of the candidates running, it's very possible nobody gets enough pledged delegates to become the clear nominee at the convention, which it would then go to a second round where superdelegates get to vote. But you have the Democratic Party under Tom Perez claiming on one breath to be neutral, right? They're neutral. Yet you're not hiring like a secretary or an administrative assistant. You're hiring the director of your finance. The DNC is largely a finance machine. They are there to raise money for corporate establishment candidates. Basically said 6 months ago, or endorsed somebody saying it, Bernie Sanders is a danger to the Democratic Party. I don't want to hear Bernie is running. Who said the only pain or burn the middle class will feel is the tax increases from Bernie Sanders. I mean, this could be any Republican would talk that way. But this is Chris Korge. who is now the finance director of the Democratic National Committee. You couldn't have found anyone else that at least says this in private, doesn't tweet it openly 6 months ago? Let's see what Chris Korge has to say. I have worked tirelessly to help the Democratic Party and have been proud to support a wide array of Democratic candidates, Korge said in a statement. I'm fully committed to the DNC's neutrality policy, and I look forward to raising the funds necessary to help whoever our Democratic nominee is. Yes, you have supported a wide array of candidates like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Yes, a wide array of corporate, Wall Street, rubber-stamped warmongers like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. You definitely have supported them. DNC Chairman Tom Perez capped Korge. I read you that already. In interviews with Huffington Post this week, Jeff Weaver, a senior advisor to Sanders' 2020 presidential bid, Nebraska Democratic Party Chairman Jane Kleb, DNC member James Zogby, and DNC member Larry Cohn all called on Korge to clarify that he would leave past antipathy to Sanders behind in his new role. Kleb, Zogby, and Cohen all endorsed Sanders in 2016 and serve on the board of Our Revolution, the nonprofit that came out of his 2016 bid. As a state party chair, Kleb will remain neutral during the 2020 primary. The DNC, in my conversations with Chairman Perez, has committed to neutrality, Weaver said hours before Korge released his statement. Any statement that would commit to it on his part would be an appropriate gesture. Quote, I hope that when he gets to the DNC, he has some of those young people help him find the delete button on his Twitter account. During the 2016 primary, Korge was a major donor and bundler for Hillary Clinton, and he repeatedly blasted Sanders on social media. And by the way, guess what? Chris Korge, you know who he donated to recently? In January? $2,700, the max amount, to Kamala Harris in January. December, he's retweeting Bernie Sanders is a danger to the future of the Democratic Party. The next month, $2,700 to Hillary Clinton. Excuse me, Kamala Harris. I say that because basically Kamala Harris is stepping in as Hillary 2.0. All of Hillary Clinton's donors are now Kamala Harris's donors, and most of Kamala Harris's top campaign advisors and staffers worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign. It's just a seamless transition. And I think a lot of the donors are hedging their bets between Biden and Kamala. And ultimately, if Biden were to win the nomination, he would pick Kamala Harris. Or before the nomination is up, if Kamala Harris is still far behind, Biden would pick her to try and do, still Biden would be pretending he's middle-class Joe and get a vice presidential running mate in Kamala Harris who fills that identity role and gives him some cover for his awful, awful positions like the crime bill, including being against busing in the 70s and some other racist comments he's made. But you can't make this stuff up. The DNC, with the eyes of the country watching them, both progressives as well as Republicans, frankly, are sitting here pretending to be neutral when your finance chair is a political donor to one of the current candidates, Kamala Harris. When your finance chair is waving about the dangers of Bernie Sanders and high taxes. When your finance chair is a lobbyist from South Florida, where Debbie Wasserman Schultz's influence is thicker than wolves. I don't know if that's a good analogy. I'm so mad, remember to press that like button. Smash that like button. And I'm not just saying this, by the way, because it's totally unfair to Bernie Sanders. It's unfair to people who donate to the DNC, even if they're not Bernie people. It's unfair to people who want actual democracy. So, is the finance chair the same as Tom Perez? Does he have the same power? No. But is the finance chair one of the top 3 or top 2 most influential people at the Democratic National Committee? Yes. Follow the money. It's about the money, Lebowski. I don't want to hear that the DNC is neutral. They just hired basically a political operative, a mega donor, a lobbyist, who's wants Kamala Harris apparently to win, who's been ranting for 3 years now against Bernie Sanders, and you don't think that there might be some backdoor financial things that go on with that finance chair to prop up other candidates? Maybe they won't put it in writing this time and have emails about these money laundering schemes like the Hillary Victory Fund. You remember that from 2016, where Hillary Clinton's campaign was giving money to the state parties, but it ultimately just went back. The money it meant for either the DNC or the state Democratic parties was ultimately laundered back to Hillary Clinton's campaign. So I got to tell you, keeping it real, I think Bernie Sanders supporters from the DNC, and Jeff Weaver, a top senior campaign advisor to Bernie Sanders, was his campaign manager. I think their response is weak sauce. I like all those people. No. The request is not, we want Mr. Chris Korge to make a statement avowing his neutrality. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is going on national television, expressing her neutrality and vowing to neutrality as that day, probably, they were all in writing email on how they could screw Bernie Sanders and prop up Hillary Clinton. I don't care what they say. No. We don't need a statement from Chris Korge. We need this man not to become the DNC finance chair. If you want to have a neutral primary, you cannot have leading executives at the Democratic National Committee be proponents of one candidate and clearly on the record publicly hostile to another. No. There's a difference between James Zogby, who's a DNC board member, right? He's a DNC member and he's pro Bernie Sanders, but he's not the chairman. He's not the finance chair. He's a DNC member. Of course, DNC members could have their political preferences, but you can't have the chairman, you can't have the finance chair, the secretary, whoever. People that make the decisions that could affect a primary be political operatives and mega donors to Kamala Harris. He donated $2,700 to Kamala Harris. I have to look more in depth. He might have bundled money for her too. So he might have directly donated and also raised and fundraised a lot of money for Kamala Harris. So I don't know about you, but I think the response for the Sanders campaign shall be, we are adamantly against this person getting approved in August as the DNC finance chair, and we expect and demand that Chairman Perez revoke that nomination. Period. End of story. I understand that they're trying to be diplomatic. I understand that in this piece, Jane Klebb, Jane Klebb, the Nebraska chairwoman, Nebraska's Democratic Party chairwoman, says it's leaps and bounds from where it was in 2015 and 2016, referring to DNC's improved commitment to impartiality. I get it. And maybe they've taken some strides to make it appear that they're neutral. But you can't tell me that having as a top 2 position this guy, who's a lobbyist, by the way, he's not exactly like, the most progressive. Yeah, don't tell me that person is wildly, is neutral, and his animosity and hostility towards Bernie Sanders, his favoritism towards Kamala Harris, and if not Kamala Harris, anyone who's pro-corporate, anyone who's pro-big banks, anyone who's pro-fossil fuels, anyone that's pro-big pharma, anyone that's pro-big real estate, anyone that's pro-Silicon Valley, and on and on and on, is going to not tilt the scales. What do you think? Tell us in the super chat, and we'll answer you right there in the live chat. So I hope to see Bernie Sanders' campaign not ask for like a comment or a statement from this gentleman vowing his neutrality and clarifying his comments about Bernie Sanders. Talk is cheap. We already know what he thinks. He deleted the tweets. You don't delete tweets if you don't have anything to hide.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.